What is the worst piece of information you know? There is a type of brain cancer that clogs up the channels that drain spinal fluid, causing the pressure to build up enough to force the brain out through the base of the skull, killing the patient. During and after World War I, the world didn't expect how horrible the injuries would be. Common injuries were a loss of the left arm and entire face due to the position of shooters in the trenches. To combat this, prosthetic limb technology improved incredibly quickly. A good outcome was obviously prosthetic limbs, but sculptors and doctors also began making prosthetic faces for soldiers who, for lack of a better phrase, lost their faces in war. They were essentially masks used to hide their disfigurement and, keeping with the disenchantment of the lost generation, many soldiers hated them because they were a way to hide the horrors of war from the public. Not necessarily a horrifying or disturbing fact, but I hate to think of the way millions of young men were made to feel after experiencing World War I. Millions of soldiers and civilians died and the government said whoopsies, have a mask. An important character in Boardwalk Empire has one of these facial prosthetics from an injury in World War I, as you say. Great series, well worth watching. Bedbugs have sex by physically stabbing the other with their bedbug knife penis. How do they know it's a female? They don't. They occasionally stab males and they're like, my bad bro, no homo, but they have this penis size hole in them that may kill them. Good, I hope they all dong stab each other. There was a rugby player who took a cleat to the groin and it ripped his scrotum apart and his testicle began to unravel. That's right, kids, testicles can unravel. He shoved the partially unraveled testicle back into his scrotum and continued playing. Testicles unravel, 'tis but a flesh wound. Female hyenas give birth through their long, penis-like clitorises, and usually end up tearing horribly, if not completely ripping it off. And they usually give birth to twins in a small den and one twin kills the other before emerging as the sole offspring. Sea otters are known to rape baby seals. Even worse, the baby seals are often killed during the rape and sometimes otters hold onto the corpse for a bit longer to have intercourse with the corpse. They are interspecies rapist necrophilax. I wish I hadn't opened this thread now. With mentally disabled female patients, doctors almost always prescribe birth control just automatically. This is because mentally disabled girls and women are raped with alarming frequency. They also have a lot of consensual sex with mentally impaired male patients because staff, movies, and TV all make it look like the thing to do. They also often have a lower level of body awareness and little concept of long-term effects like pregnancy and STDs, so between that and the taboo of it, they often don't use protection or tell anyone. My son can do something to himself most men have tried at one point in their lives. That's the last time I snuck home for lunch. I make so much noise now entering the house and rooms it's deafening. I am heading upstairs, about 4 more stairs and I am at the top. No way he did it, you crazy son of a bee, you did it. I had a Land Before Time VHS that I adored growing up. Learning that the little girl who voiced Ducky was so stressed out from her career and father's abuse that she plucked all her eyelashes and ended up murdered by her father is heartbreaking. And to top it off, her gravestone quotes yep, yep, yep. If a clonefish's female partner dies, it will change gender and mate with its children in order to reproduce. This information ruined Finding Nemo for me. Oh, that's why he wanted to find Nemo so bad. I know that when my mother was young, she was molested by an older male family member, but not her father. She had repressed the memories until years later when a female cousin was molested by the same family member and went to her to talk about it. Aside from my mom, my cousin, and the one who did it, I am the only person who knows, as my mom has never told anyone else. She never named who exactly it was, but based on the description and people involved, I know who it is. He's old, decrepit, and lives very far away, so I haven't seen him in years. I hate that it happened, and I hate that there's literally nothing I can do about it at this point. You could go and stab him in the eyes. My dad made me do a hard drive recovery a few years back, specifically to save photos from his work. However, it also contained his entire pee collection. I now have a very in-depth knowledge of the pee my father likes and how he organizes it. It's a piece of info that pops itself into my head every few months randomly and I can't get out. Don't worry, Nothing was super dark illegal. You can fit a light bulb into your mouth fairly easily, but it's impossible to get out without breaking the bulb. Please do not try this at home. Now that you know, you will never be able to look at light bulbs the same way again. There are over 1,200 kinds of worst. Respond with "tell me more" for additional best worst facts. Tell me more. My best friend, who's newly engaged, just realized he is gay, and his fiance, my other best friend, has no idea. I'm the only one he's told. Dude, he needs to call off the wedding. The Korean myth that a fan will blow away all the oxygen in a room causing death was started because family members committed suicide and the family told themselves it was the fan. I am Korean and my grandmother always turns the fan off after I go to sleep, and it annoys me when she is staying the night. I once heard as a child a woman talking about a mucus plug falling out of her vagina into the shower. She gave a very Stephen King-like description. I was mortified. In addition to this, the other woman asked her to compare it to menstrual chunks. I'm telling you, as a 9-year-old, this fricked me up. I believe I was waiting in the doctor's office for a checkup or something, not 100% sure. One time a glob of cervical mucus fell out after sex, and my so hands it to me and says, "This came out of you, comma spacer, comma spacer, comma spacer." I couldn't stop laughing. He might as well have said, "I think you dropped this. Here you go." Your anus can stretch to up to 8 inches in diameter. A fully grown raccoon can fit in places 4 inches in diameter. If a raccoon is about 12 inches tall and Yoda is around 24 inches tall, it is safe to assume that Yoda can fit inside an average human anus, with room to spare. It's only fair. He spent the first 3 movies with a human up his butt. The Cascadia subduction zone, a major fault off the coast of Oregon, Washington, is past due for a major earthquake. When it ruptures, it will result in a magnitude 8.9 plus earthquake. The quake, combined with the resulting tsunami, will basically wipe every coastal town in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California off the map. Roads will be impassable for months. Electricity, water, natural gas, and telecommunications will be gone for at least that long. There will be no way to get fuel or supplies in by ship, as none of the ports or shipping channels currently used will exist anymore. It is likely to kill tens of thousands of people, possibly more. The odds of this happening in the next 50 years are 1 in 3. Sleep tight. This is a huge concern for people living in Vancouver, Canada as well. There's always an earthquake scare coming around once every few months to few years. Coca-Cola hired paramilitary groups as security for South American bottling plants, and on the side those companies raped and murdered family members of prominent union leaders, arguing for wages and collective bargaining rights, to intimidate them. Bees can sting other bees. Bees from one colony can sting bees from another colony if they attack. The queen bee can sting her rivals and other queens to death, even if they're just developing. You can get mango worms. Don't Google them from your skin touching soil where their larvae is. They will then burrow into your skin and grow there, then burrow out. It's common around pigs in some countries, so don't walk barefoot around them. Seriously, don't Google them. I googled them. I couldn't help it, I'm sorry. More than half of people don't wash their hands after using the bathroom. This is also why most bowls of finger salt in restaurants contain urine. I've worked in restaurants for years. What the fuck is finger salt? There's a transcript out there of the recording they show to new FBI recruits in order to see if they can handle the worst stuff you might run into. I thought it's just a transcript. I've seen worse stuff on the internet. I'm sure it's fine. Nah, it haunts me. I couldn't stop reading it. 2 guys abducted her in a van, and she spent her last hours being raped and tortured. I lay awake at night now sometimes wondering how people can be so fricked up, wondering what it's like to live your last moments knowing that you aren't a person to whoever is holding you captive. You're just a sack of organic tissues. I know exactly how that poor girl was tortured and murdered, and I wish I didn't. I wish I could forget it. I'm not necessarily pro death penalty, but some people should never, ever be eligible to rejoin society. It's the worst information I know and it serves no purpose, just makes me disappointed in humanity. Dolphins are extremely rappy. Most dolphin sex is gang rape. They bite the heads off of fish and inseminate the bodies. You are more likely to be drowned and then raped by a dolphin than you are to be saved by one. People think they're adorable and all that, but they're pretty terrible actually. People think they are so adorable because there are lots of stories of dolphins saving people from sharks. Turns out they aren't killing sharks to save people, they just love killing sharks. Dolphins are pretty fricked up, like every other species except dogs. Most cases of died at the scene or were killed instantly in the news are false. The news or the medics don't want to describe the scared injured person calling for their loved ones or drowning in their own blood. Freaking heck mate. A rat kill happens when multiple rats become fused and congeal together in a mess of tails, hair, dirt, blood and various other fluids. Rat kings are also known to team up with super hot lifeguards. Rodney Atkins, watching you country singer, attempted to kill his wife with a pillow while his son was watching. Still makes music and often plays in festivals. All the serial killers you've heard the names of are the ones who've been reported, identified and or caught. Now think of how media and news are pretty recent inventions in the entire span of human history. That Chairman Mao never washed his genitals, because he believed as it was washed clean by the womanly fluids of whatever virgin he ordered to bang him that day. I'm very hesitantly asking for a source. That is absolutely repulsive. Someone's cat got ran over by a bike just in front of the cat shelter I volunteered at. The poor thing had multiple open fractures and sadly we had to have him euthanized. So right now there's a person out there who's looking for their friend and he will never go back home. Please have your pets microchipped, or at least put a collar with your informations on it. During testimony being given by a pedophile who was incarcerated, he testified that pedophiles have an unwritten rule: sex by 8 or it's too late, meaning have sex with a child by the time they are 8 years old or it isn't as enjoyable. He later tried to recant and said it actually means have sex by 8 PM or it's too late. He actually tried to laugh it off. The content of a letter written by Albert Fish to the parents of a young child he murdered. If you've read the letter you know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure it's possible for a human to be more vile. Just know she died a virgin, thinking that gave the family solace after he talked about killing her, slicing up her body, and eating her. I've shared this one before but the mental image of it still disturbs me. On the torture rack. Additionally, if muscle fibers are stretched excessively, they lose their ability to contract, rendering them ineffective. One gruesome aspect of being stretched too far on the rack is the loud popping noises made by snapping cartilage, ligaments or bones. There's something that has yet to be invented that will make someone or lots of people a billionaire, and that will almost certainly not be me. The law making rape during marriage illegal in Germany was passed in 1997. 138 members of parliament voted against that bill. At least one of those voting against it is a member of the current government led by Angela Merkel. Also, for raping a disabled person there are cases less strict sentences. If the person wasn't able to say no to the perpetrator due to their disability. Can't decide which one is worse. China is harvesting and selling organs from perfectly healthy humans they kidnap or have enslaved or taking folks they choose, need, right from prison. That there are people in this world that will sell out every other human and future humans on this planet just for a few extra dollars in their pocket now. There are many horrible torture devices they used to use, such as a clamp that would be heated over a fire and then clamped around a woman's breast. And then there's another that was vaguely shaped like a metal pear that would be inserted into the anus and a knob would be twisted to have it unfold inside you. Now they are just called BDSM toys. You can pick up a severed human head with one hand. If you try 9 times out of 10 you will drop it. The reason for this is human heads are about the weight of a bowling ball, but unlike bowling balls this weight is distributed unevenly, make them nearly impossible to pick up with one hand, unless you cheat and pick it up by the hair. Regardless of my achievements in this mediocre life I have, it will mean nothing to the march of time. Everything will turn to dust and there is no reason to existence. Yes, so have lots of fun, or what is the point? It's widely believed in Africa that if you have AIDS you can get rid of it by having sex with an infant, that the disease will transfer to the infant when you have sex with it. It's so bad that billboards are set up telling people that this is false. In just the small area hospital that was the setting of the news story I read about this, they had on average 3 infants per week brought in for treatment, and many of them died of their injuries. This world is more brutal and horrific than most people realize. It has been mentioned, but white phosphorus, commonly used for smoke grenades or incendiary munitions, was up until fairly recently legally used in anti-personnel roles, of which its horrifying effects include extremely dangerous deep tissue burns which can only be stopped by completely smothering the material and depriving it of oxygen. Normally using oil as water won't stop it, at which point if by some miracle you manage to survive, your body has likely absorbed enough phosphorus that you are extremely likely to die from heart, liver, or kidney failure. Billionaires are currently having sex with kidnapped underage girls, boys. They are doing every kind of evil things, really, and they are safe in the knowledge that they will never face any repercussion for it because laws don't apply to them. Jeff Epstein's murder was the biggest blue balling of conspiracy theorists ever. I work in a school. Yes, it's anecdotal, but I'd say at least half of all children are not receiving the healthcare, education, shelter, food and or love they deserve. That's because people need $sign to be able to offer any of those, and if your wages and your spouses only cover food, shelter, and getting to and from work, none of the 3 are going to happen. My previous housemates had text group threads that essentially only existed to mock me behind my back. I got a hold of one of their phones one day to replace the battery, and saw a text message they had gotten while I was double checking a few things before opening up the phone. I lived with the family of a friend who I attended high school with for over 3 years. I fricked myself financially trying to help them and keep them from getting evicted or going hungry. I've done so much for them. Things weren't always great, but this killed me. I moved out earlier this year and it still kills me, and I can't confront them about it. Do it. Confront them. Frick them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.